I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm well.
I find it interesting that you always include your is it street and house address when you write.
Yes, that's where I was born. That's where I come from, and that's where I want people to know I hail from. So
Interesting. And Salt Pond is where you come from.
yes,
Wow, that's a historic do I call it, town. When it comes to the history of Ghana, there's a lot that happened in Salt Pond. But on this article that you've written, the main point, and I think this point is very germane. Say Jerry Rawlings, in his second bid to win power in the 1996 general elections, articulated this type of message clearly and in a manner that should be emulated. He said he wouldn't promise anything, and that all he could promise was hard work. Now, is this to suggest that you are worried about the things you are hearing in terms of the promises that are being made?
yes, I am not too comfortable to put it bluntly, because given the situation in which we find ourselves in as a country now, it would have to be tough in the next, it will have to be tough post 2024 before it will be easier. Look, my view is, even if it is true that yet the sikaso now so even if that is true, we have to be cautious in the kinds of things that we say. Otherwise, if you don't take care, look, there are so many people in Ghana now that my research have shown that they are so disappointed. They are so much full of a feeling of hopelessness and despondency. And they are having a certain hope that with a change of government, there would be a restoration of their hopelessness. Now, if you say too much and you don't manage people's expectation, then it is likely that they will become even more disappointed. And the possibility of such massive disappointment threatening the peace and democratic gains of our country will be very high. And so I'm saying that we should be careful about the survival of our democratic gains and ensure that we don't say things that may end up disappointing people. We don't say things that give a lot of hope, and then we may end up not doing all of them, and then we may disappoint people. And when there's such massive disappointment, then people may now lose hope to the point that, look, such sense of hopelessness would threaten the survival of our democratic gains. And so I am saying that let the message now focus on hard work, the spade work. Let the message focus on the fact that now, from the top to the bottom, everybody is going to sacrifice. Let the message be such that we can only reap the benefits if we have all labored. Okay, and I believe that this should be the candid approach to campaigning. Let us be careful. I mean, generally, that's what I want to say. Let us be careful. Otherwise, we'll heap up a lot of hope, in the body politic, especially among the young people. And if this kind of situation is not managed properly, then it will be dangerous for the survival of our multi-party democracy tomorrow. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, I'll come to maybe...
And I'm happy you referred to what Jerry Rawlings said, and I referred to that. Okay, in 1996, when he was re-elected to lead the NDC, he said, I'm not promising you X, I'm not promising you Y, I'm not promising you money, I'm not promising you, but I am promising you hard work. You can look for the clip and play it, so that the current political elite will also want to emulate from that. I'm promising you hard work, and if we all work hard, we would all reap the benefit of our hard work. And the applause were thunderous. Okay, so I know that around this time, people's ears are itchy, and they are looking forward to hearing so many things. Politicians should not be influenced or swayed by the itchy ears of people who may be listening to them. But I think that we should be candid. And look, it is not every day that if you tell people what they want to hear, they would applaud. Sometimes you tell them what they want to hear, they will tell you that, they will say it in their hearts, that, look, we know that this one, you are just saying it because you know you want to hear it. But if you tell them that I'm going to be candid with you, the work that lies ahead of us requires a lot of speed work, it requires a lot of hard work, it requires a lot of sacrifices. I'm going to lead by sacrificing. My people that I'm working with are going to be sacrificed. I'm going to call on you to also sacrifice. And we all sacrifice and work hard. And this is the only way we can rebuild Ghana, and we can recoup or regain the losses that we have made. If you say this, people begin to think that, hey, then you are a different person. And I think that should be the way to go. We have promised everything since the history of the inception of the Fourth Republic, and we've not delivered much. And so I urge politicians, the political elite, to approach the kind of promises they make in the lead up to the 2024 election with some trepidation, and say just little, but focus more on hard work and the need to rebuild Ghana, so that we will not create disappointment tomorrow in a manner that may endanger the peace and democratic gains that we have made as a country.
Now, being a professor of political science, I know you've studied perhaps personalities when it comes to politics a bit more closely. Jerry Rawlings, there was a lot going for him. In fact, the nostalgia of Jerry Rawlings alone will get you to vote for him. But this one, wouldn't it not be dangerous for them not to offer anything at all, like something to reduce the hardship at this time?
Yeah, so I'm saying that say little. You see, which one will you prefer? Our politicians tend to promise too much. Everywhere they go, they want to say something. I think it is not helpful. Okay, look at the current administration. Judge them by the kinds of things that they said they will be doing. Look at all of them. We're going to deal with the Goggisberg economy. We are going to see Ghana without aid. We are going to provide, we'll pay for the rents of young people who are seeking to rent houses. Didn't you hear this? So such a ridiculous promise. Please, do you remember?
Yes.
You're going to pay for the rent of young people. And look at all these things.
Including a harbour and an airport for your home region.
So they said all these things. But look, that these things do not bring about development. If you are serious, just focus on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. I'm going to do this. Look, I'm going to make sure that there is constant supply of power. And I'm going to make sure that we have first-class roads. I'm going to make sure that our hospitals are not death traps. And I'm going to make sure that I generate employment for young people. 4, just do these 4 things and do them well. Get out of the scene. Let another person come. And then let that person also focus on 4 concrete things. Do them and do them very well. Get out of the scene. And then let another person come. Focus on just 3. And these will bring about development. Recently I heard that so many rail lines have been constructed and I said, look at us. We have constructed rail lines and there are trains flying those rail lines and we are where we are today. It's not about ticking the box. We've all traveled before. We know that elsewhere, when vehicles are driving up, trains are underground. And so there's no traffic and all. Is that what we have done? Or we just said that we are going to be doing we are going to be doing uncompleted rail lines and then we just abandon them and then the new train that we managed to purchase has also been involved in an accident and I'm not sure it will ever be resuscitated today or tomorrow. I mean, these kinds of things, they don't help. And so I am pushing for the kind of politicking that is in the lead up to the 2024 elections. That will be seen as quite novel and new and a departure from what has always plagued us. This kind of sincerity, I think, would win more hearts. We would win many hearts, to whoever go on that tangent. And it would elicit the support and cooperation of many Ghanaians as we launch next year into more difficult times to rebuild. And then so that if you are rebuilding, you have the critical mass of the citizenry supporting. You remember that at one point in time, people in Ghana went on demonstration asking J. Kufuor to increase fuel prices. It has happened before. People went on demonstration asking that yes, it would instill hardship on us, but increase it. Okay, that emanated from a certain goodwill that the then regime had courted for itself. So I'm saying that if we begin to psych the people well, that given where we are today, tomorrow, just because power has changed hands, will not mean that things are going to be rosy immediately. And like I said, even if it is truly the case that it is a consonance or common here, it will not immediately translate into physical and tangible developmental outcomes reflected in the pocket of the people. No, just somebody take power today and then tomorrow things are okay. No, we'll all have to do the spade work. And I want politicians to focus on psyching the people about this kind of spade work. Let us all do it. Let us all do it. Let the top echelons of the political elite be seen to be tightening their belts. So you tell the people, we are going to tighten our belt, and we'll do it in such a way that it will be palpable, you can feel it, you can see that those of us leading are tightening our belt. So that when we ask you to tighten your belt, you'd also do so graciously. And then when we have all tightened our belts and things have worked well, we can all loose our belts and then eat, and we'll all sleep under air conditions and fans. And then we can all snore because we've all worked hard.
Now, reading through your article, this particular portion I find to be loaded. And please kindly maybe flesh it out for me. But realistically, it will take a lot of strenuous effort to properly rebuild what has been destroyed and regain what is lost. Please clarify.
Oh, it's not loaded. It's a straightforward matter. I'm saying that, look, things have been destroyed. I mean, look at now, I'm a leader of a labor union. When people are inching towards pension, they come to me and they ask, so will my pension be paid? And you can just imagine that somebody who is inching closer to 60 would necessarily, would by all means, or many of them would have some health conditions, hypertension, high blood pressures, diabetes, and all those things may be lurking around. And then such a person is not sure of going on retirement or be asking, so would they pay my pension? I mean, it's never happened before. People know that, look, if you work hard and then you save and you are contributing towards your pension and government is also contributing, you get to pension and then you are paid. People are worried. Now, people who succeed in working very hard do not know where to save their money, where to invest their money. No nation can develop without whipping up savings culture in its citizenry. If you don't save your money at the bank, and if I don't save my money at the bank, we cannot develop. We won't have excess liquidity in the system with which government can go about, its activities. Government can borrow some and go about its activities. People work and they don't know where to invest their money. They don't know where to save their money because of the fear of haircuts and all that. So many things have gone wrong, and we have to work hard to restore public confidence in the system. We have to work hard to restore hope in the system. We have to work hard to rebuild the Ghana that, in my view, has been run aground. And if all these things will have to be done, then the best thing to do to the people who support you, may have to elicit, will be to tell them that, look, it is not going to be rosy. I know politically it is quite tricky, but there's a way to go about it in a manner that would make people know that, look, you are just being honest and being sincere.
Oh, that's nice. But now let me ask you to do an assessment for me. Because yesterday, and you wrote this after the events that happened yesterday. Did you hear that? What you expected?
Oh, no. So, I heard everything that was said. But, so I felt that the event was an event that was keeping up a lot of hope among young people, and it was not, it didn't psych them that much about the need for them to be on board when it comes to working hard to rebuild Mother Ghana. If power changes hands, whoever takes over power will have to elicit much support from young people. Remember that at one point in time, young people, particularly those in the then three main universities in Ghana, the Premier University, University of Science and Technology, University of Cape Coast, they boycotted lectures, and they said they were going into the hinterlands to carry cocoa to where tractors could then pick them to the city centers, for export. It happened also this happened in Rawlinson's time, and it happened also in Kutu Champon's time, when students boycotted lectures and then they went into agriculture and they went to lend their support. Okay, so the point is that we would need the young people to be mobilized as a country to support every effort aimed at rebuilding and reconstructing Ghana. And so if you would need them to support you, then it is important that you psych them and prepare them now. But if you don't say much about needing them to support you in rebuilding, but you say more that seem to create the impression that all their problems you have solution to. then you may get into the driving seat and face reality. And if you don't take care and you face the reality, it becomes difficult to tell them that, look, things are hard, and it will take some time for us to make things easier. So begin to psych them that things are going to be hard, and it is going to require that we all work hard. Let us psych everybody from now onwards, in that direction, so that when you get there, the expectations of young people will be measured. Otherwise, they may be disappointed. And like I said, if we continue on the tangent of this kind of massive disappointment that young people now face, then the survival of our democratic gains and peace will be threatened.
And one last question on the article. Virtually all problems confronting Ghana will be solved if the problems of young people are clearly articulated, properly grasped, and addressed. Is it to suggest that these three things that you believe would help have not been done? You still don't hear politicians properly articulate, or leaders properly articulate the problems of the youth. You don't hear that grasp, and then you don't see them being addressed.
Well, I mean, we have massive unemployment among young people. Politicians continue to tout that we have created jobs. Yet I sit in my office, and every day of the week there are people coming to you, see this, go and help me get jobs. I say, well, where are we going to find the jobs from? Are you not part of the jobs? Are you not taking advantage of the jobs that we are told, have been created? And so the point is, look, unemployment among young people is high, and young people's problems have not properly been articulated, because the youth have been, quote and unquote, used and abused by the political elites to the point that they themselves have no sense of agency. Note this, I'm not saying sense of agency, I'm saying sense of agency. AENCY. So if I say young people now many of them do not have a sense of agency, it means they themselves are unable to even appreciate their own problems for the purposes of properly articulating their own challenges for redress, because the politician has succeeded in breaking their fronts and polarizing them excessively on partisan lines, such that they see the problems of politicians and they don't see their own problems. Okay, so for young people's challenges to be well grasped and properly addressed, they themselves must have the sense of agency to articulate their problems. And then politicians would buy into such articulation, and then they may be able to proffer more sustainable problems to such sustainable solutions to such problems. Okay, but if you yourself, you allow yourself to be used as agents, to be deployed to foment conflict, and agents to be used to fight the dirty political wars of politicians, rather than having a sense of agency in articulating your own challenges, then it becomes problematic for the problems confronting you to be properly articulated, to be properly grasped, for the political elites to fasten out solutions, to them. And so this has been the challenge. You see young people, and you see what sometimes makes my heart bleed is that, look, I believe that if the future is for the youth, then the youth must be prepared, and they must fight for the future. And sometimes, even when you are fighting for them, because of their own lack of sense of agency, when you are fighting for them, they fight against you. So now, look at it carefully. I'm saying that We have allowed young people to be so overly polarized on party lines to the point that when you mean well and when you are fighting for them and for their future, the very people you are fighting for fight against you. Let me tell you, my PhD thesis from 2007 to 2012 was on the youth. It is titled Youth, Participation and Development. Okay, so I know so many of the challenges confronting young people. And so sometimes I get so passionate about talking about matters of importance and of interest to the youth. But sometimes I get so disappointed that the very people whose future you are fighting for do not even understand. And so then they fight against you. And we hope that for some of us, we are so resilient and resolved that even though sometimes you get disappointed, we just cannot stop. And so we'll continue soldiering on just to ensure that one day we'll be able to help young people to also develop their own sense of agency so that they can join all of us in a fight to secure their own future.
Prof, I've held you on the line for quite some time, but before I let you go, just quick comments on two things. One, you've been lecturing for so long. You moved from a young lecturer, you are now a professor. What do you first make of this idea of academic user fees being scrapped by the NDC when given the opportunity? And secondly, what do you make of the latest comment from Ransford Gyampo that's attracting a lot of attention, even from the Peace Council?
Academic user fees being scrapped.
At least for first years.
I don't know. If I had been consulted on this particular one, I would have advised that we should go look first at subventions of government that goes to the universities and measure the adequacy first.
Okay. The adequacy of the subventions that goes to the university.
Yes. The government subventions to public universities have been dwindling to the point that now government subventions can only pay lectures. There isn't money to pay for utilities. There isn't money to provide water, to pay for the cost of water. There isn't money to do major infrastructural development on the campuses. Okay, so the universities thrive so much on their own internally generated resources to keep themselves running beyond paying lecturers. And so I see one major internally generated resources to the universities as being the fees that students pay. And these resources that are generated from the fees that they use to run their activities. So they will use to maintain the roads, they will use them to provide water, they will use them to buy fuel for generators, to use them to pay for utility bills, and to do other things. Government people die, people retire, people resign from the universities, and the government is not giving the universities the go-ahead to recruit more lecturers to replace. And so, if the universities want to keep running, they recruit the lecturers themselves and then use some of their own internally generated resources, okay, to pay these lecturers. Because government has not given you the go-ahead to recruit, if you recruit, they will not pay. And so this idea ideas are used. So, in my view, if the government is saying, or if there is a promise to make sure that level 100s will not pay fees, then there should also be commitment to ensuring that the monies that would have accrued to the investees from these level 100s would also be paid upfront to the investees. If we don't make that corresponding promise and ensure that this corresponding promise is also delivered on, then we may be impoverishing the public universities and we may be making it difficult for them to run. So my point is that that promise is good, only if we would also be careful to ensure that we increase the subventions from government to public universities to make them run well. That's number one. And then number two, we would also pay upfront the monies that would accrue to the universities when level 100s, pay their fees. If we make sure that we pay that to the universities, then that promise will be good. But if we would continue and we would not do anything about the subventions that have dwindled all this while, then it will be like, look, a beggar is begging for money. You are not giving him money, and even the little that he has, you are also taken from it. Then that will impoverish the public investors and it not make them run well. So we should, and I know that people are listening, and the elites who made included this particular promise in the manifesto, I know they are listening. And my appeal to them is that promise is good, but then it must go with increasing the subventions of government to the public investors. And then also we should be able to quantify that, look, if level 100 pay their school fees, level 100s pay their school fees, it's going to lead to 10 cities, accrue 10 cities to the investors. And since we are saying we will not let them pay, we will make sure that the 10 cities, is advanced and paid to the investors so that they are not impoverished. So we should nuance that promise properly so that we don't make things difficult for the investors to run.
And I asked about Brian Gyampo.
Oh, Brian Gyampo. I think that I wouldn't have said what he said, and I'm not also too happy with the response that has also come from some of the officials of the NDC. These things tend to create tension in the body politic, and we don't have to go through that. We don't have to put ourselves unnecessarily in a tense situation. We don't have to spike the political atmosphere and temperature with tension in the lead up to the 2024 elections, because these things can create chaos and or relapse democratic gains. I realize that this particular statement that he made, he said it in such a way that, look, if you want to really think about it, then he can find a way to escape, because he said, look, we have Muslims, we have pastors, we have this, we have that, and that, so we are going to resort to all means to make sure we win the election. I mean, it can be interpreted to mean that, look, he's saying that they are going to fall on all these people and their support to win the election. But then it can also be misinterpreted, or it can also be interpreted in a manner to suggest that you are saying you are not really going to be handing over power, and that unnecessarily will play on emotional keyboards of people, and it will elicit the kind of response that has also come from the NDC, and I'm saying together, these would generate unnecessary tension, and we don't want that situation. Look, the outcome of the 2024 elections have long been decided in the hearts of Ghanaians, and so we don't need the tension that is being incited. It will not help. And if there is violence, if there is chaos, if there is implosion, and if there is democratic relapse, all of us will be the losers. So I would advise that we become temperate in the usage of our language as people go about prosecuting their campaign agenda.
Prof, always a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Professor Ransford Gyampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, speaking to us this morning. Always a pleasure having a conversation.